What is consecration? How do you consecrate a magical object? Why would you consecrate a magical object? These are questions that I get asked a lot, and I thought it might be worth making a little video just to give you some answers from my own understanding and to give you some resources so that you can perform your own consecration ceremonies and to consecrate your own magical objects, whether they be wands or daggers or pens. So first of all, what is consecration? We hear a lot about how you have to consecrate your magical objects. You receive a beautifully fashioned wand in the post that you've paid a lot of money for, and it feels lovely in the hand, but it's missing that little something, that kind of magicness about it. It's just an object that you've paid money for and that you've received. It's been made with a lot of love maybe and a lot of magical intention, but ultimately you have to make it magical for yourself. And so how do you do that? Well, you consecrate it, which means that you dedicate it to a specific purpose. You're never going to use this wand for stirring paint or for scratching your back. This wand is specifically for whatever specific magical purpose you've purchased it for, or maybe made it for. If, like me, you've made a magic wand for representing fire during your ceremonial rituals, then you're going to want to infuse that wand with the spirit of fire. Maybe you're going to create the wand or have the wand created during fiery related hours related to the planets of Mars and the classical planet of the sun. Or maybe you'll inscribe it using pyrographics to burn in a magical message into the wood of the wand itself. But all of that takes place during the creation of the wand. The consecration happens once the wand is made. And I really like Lon Milo Duquette's idea in Home Magic to think of consecration as an initiation for the object itself. On page 80 of the book, he says, "Your sincerity in the matter is the key to the success of the operation. Crowley and the magicians of the Golden Dawn point to what they call the formula of the neophyte as the format for a proper consecration ritual. The magician simply treats the object being consecrated as if it were the candidate in an initiation ritual. The landmarks of such a ritual are as follows." So then he goes through the various steps that normally happen during an initiation ritual. The candidate is blindfolded and kept outside the temple in the outer darkness. Then the candidate is brought into the temple. Then the candidate is examined, interrogated, allowed to pass, or if for any reason found unprepared, temporarily turned away. Then the candidate is cleansed and purified at least once with water. Then the candidate takes an oath to remain loyal to the organization and to abide by its regulations. Then the candidate is dedicated to the great work by a divine invocation. And finally, the candidate is given a magical name, anointed and robed, and then takes his or her place among the initiates. So in the book, Lon takes each of these steps in turn and shows you how you can adapt the steps for the use in a consecration of an object rather than the consecration of an initiate. But for the purposes of this video, let's just keep things very simple and boil things down to just 4 general steps. First of all, create a special environment within which the consecration will take place. The whole point of the consecration is to make the object special, and so you want the moment to be special, you want the place to be special, you want the setting to be special, you want the way you're feeling in the moment when the consecration is taking place to be special. The whole point of the consecration is to tell the object and to tell the universe within which the object exists, hey, this is a special thing. This is a special moment. This is a very special event that's happening. And going forth from this event, this object won't just be any old object anymore. It will be a consecrated magical object, and it will only ever be used for the purpose that we're about to state in this ceremony. If you think about any kind of ceremony, like a wedding or a funeral or any kind of symbolic event designed to make us think about a person or a situation in a particular way, there's a reason why we don't have weddings at bus stops. There's a reason why we don't have funerals in the parking lot of the supermarket. The event is to be marked, and we choose a special place to say this is important. The event is only as symbolic as the effort that we put into it. And so we choose special places, places that have great symbolism, places that have great beauty, or sometimes even places that have both. So yes, the place is important, but actually not just the place, the entire situation, the entire environment in which the ceremony is taking place, including the time that has been chosen, which may be symbolic and may also be magical. The clothes that you're wearing. Again, you might not want to wear a t-shirt and jeans to a wedding. You're going to wear something that makes the moment feel as important as it deserves to be. So you can think about the consecration ceremony along the same lines. Now, what makes a place good enough for a consecration ceremony? Well, that's really subjective. It's completely up to you. What feels right? What feels appropriate? What feels like enough effort put in? What feels special enough to you? It might be a clearing in the woods. It might be an altar in your own home. But it might also be your kitchen table if you've prepared it nicely and you've spent some time, possibly even days, preparing the area around it, maybe creating a purified circle around the table and ensuring that no food has been prepared on that table for several days, maybe laying a beautiful cloth on the table, or whatever it is. You will know if that sounds good enough to you, or if you would want to make more of an effort than that, or less of an effort than that, and still feel this is something special, this is a special place, this is a special moment. The same thing with what you're wearing. For some people, being barefoot is going to feel more reverential than wearing a suit. And for some people, what I've just said is going to make no sense whatsoever. And for them, wearing fancy clothes is going to be very important to make the moment feel important, give the moment some gravitas. So once you've got the conditions right and you've set up your environment the way you want it, then you can bring the object to be consecrated into that environment from wherever it was previously. So in Lon's book that I was mentioning, he suggests that before the ceremony, the object should be kept in a dark place, in the same way as a candidate to initiation would be kept also in the dark place, possibly even with a hood on their head. And then the hood would be taken off their head and it would be revealed to them that they are in this initiatory environment. So if you like that idea, of course, you could keep the item in a bag or in a drawer or something like this, and then take out the bag and reveal the object once it's already brought into that consecratory environment. So the idea in this second step would really be to release the object of its previous functions, attachments, whatever might be associated with this object previously, so that it can then be free to perform its functions going forward. Now, some people say that if you're going to be consecrating, for example, a pen, this pen should never have been used for anything else. But I somewhat disagree with that. I believe in the power of such consecration events to be able to leave an old life behind and be able to look forward to an entirely new purpose going forwards. And anyway, whatever object you're consecrating has likely not just been born. I bought this pen in a stationery shop, and other people had probably picked it up and observed the nib and maybe even tried it out. And even if you got a pen freshly unpacked from plastic packaging and stuff like this, that pen has been placed in that plastic packaging and has been displayed in a shop floor and tossed about in warehouses and so on and so forth. So I say no, it's perfectly fine to repurpose an item that was used for something else. The whole point of the consecration ceremony is to let go of that object's previous life and give it an entirely new purpose. And so some form of ceremonial cleansing should take place at this point. And of course, depending on the nature of the object that you're consecrating and how badly it would be affected by, for example, dunking in water, some objects might not survive something like that. But depending on the objects, you're going to choose a method for cleansing, even if it's just cleansing with words. Cleansing can take many different forms. It doesn't have to involve water. Jack Grail gives a really nice example of using cinnamon powder for cleansing objects that wouldn't survive being submerged. Or alternatively, you could put a few drops of hyssop essential oil into a diffuser and then pass the object through the mist and fumes that are created by the diffuser. You can be a bit creative with the way you cleanse the object, but your purpose the entire time must be to cleanse the object of its previous life, effectively, to make it new again. Now, if you happen to have a devotional practice to a particular deity, you can ask that deity to help you in making this object new again. Again, these are all just little tips, but you don't have to use them if they don't feel right to you, and you can naturally add any ideas of your own if you feel that they might help. The third step would be to give the object a new charge. Now, I don't mean this the way you charge your phone or anything like this. A charge as in a mission. A charge is a sentence or a series of sentences that's going to tell the object in no uncertain terms what it needs to be from now on. The idea is that you are not going to be the only one to say, this pen is my magic pen. The idea is that the magic will come from the pen itself that knows that it needs to be a magic pen for you. So yes, this may sound a little strange to you if you're new to the idea of panpsychism and things like this, but the point really is to make the pen become a magical pen, not for it to become a pen that you think of as magical. And so the charge is something that you'll probably write out beforehand and even possibly learn off by heart, whatever it takes for you to be able to say it with authority and not just come up with it on the moment and not be quite sure if you're saying the right words or things like this. You want to be absolutely certain of what you're telling the object to be from now on. And Lon actually starts off his chapter on consecration with a little passage from the Equinox Vol.1 issue number 9, and I'm on page 121 here in an evocation of Barzabel. And this is what the chief magus says when he rises from his knees and takes the spear from the altar. Be this consecrated spear, a thing of cheer, a thing of fear. Cheer to me who wield it, my heart its vigour shield it. Fear to them who face it, their force let fear disgrace it. Be a ray from the Most High, a glance of his unsleeping eye. Arm me in the fray that shall be fought this dreadful day. So as you can hear, Aleister Crowley's made a little poem around his particular charge to the spear here. And of course, if you like that sort of thing and you have an ear for it, then by all means, add poetry to your charges. But I do want to say that adding poetry is by no means necessary. For example, the Greco-Egyptian magical papyri are replete with such charges, telling objects to be a particular thing. And no poetry is used in these cases. Let me give you an example. In PGM 36-333, the spell is this: Myrrh, myrrh, who serve at the side of gods, who stir up rivers and mountains, who burn up the marsh of Akalda, who consume with fire the godless Typhon, who are ally of Horus, the protection of Anubis, the guide of Isis. So whatever this myrrh was is now very special. It's been told you're not just any myrrh, you are the ally of Horus, you are the protection of Anubis, you are the guide of Isis. But again, that's very specific to that particular myrrh for that particular ritual. You're likely going to want to create your own words that are very specific for the particular object that you're consecrating. Now, if you can and if you want to add energy of any kind by visualizing maybe particular planets coming into your body and then going out through your hands into the object itself, it's entirely up to you. If you're used to those kinds of processes and you enjoy doing them and that you know how to do them and you feel like it's the right thing to do, then nothing should stop you from doing something like that. But it's not required. It's not necessary for the consecration of an object. Right, I do want to remind you that consecration is about dedicating an object to a particular function, not giving it magical powers. Magical powers should ultimately arise from the object itself, which has been dedicated to that particular purpose. And then finally, step 4 is about giving that object a special place. That pen that you've consecrated is not going to go back into the kitchen drawer to write shopping lists and occasionally write a sigil from time to time. You've consecrated the object, and therefore this object should never, ever be used for anything other than the purpose to which it's been dedicated. and as such it should have a special place. Now, I don't have infinite storage space, unfortunately, and the storage space that I have is mostly filled up with books. But what I do have is a single drawer that is filled with consecrated objects, objects that are special. And those objects don't go straight into the drawer willy-nilly. They are placed in boxes. I find bags for them. I find cloths to wrap them up. These objects are treated with the utmost care because they're not like the other objects in my household. They have been dedicated to a very specific magical function, and as such I wouldn't want them to be confused with a similar object that has not been consecrated. Now, if you don't have a special place that you can place your consecrated objects in, I would say consecrate a place. Maybe find a box and consecrate a box, and then you can place all your magical objects into that box as and when they are created and consecrated in turn. And that's it. That's my overview of consecration. I hope that it was of use to some of you out there. Have you ever consecrated an object, and how did you go about it? I'd love to hear about your experiences with consecrating magical objects. Let me know down in the comments section. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon members who keep this channel alive. If you'd like to become a Patreon member and gain access to the Foolish Fish Discord server where members discuss these kinds of questions, then the links to do that can be found down below. Memberships start at just $2 a month. And if you'd like to have a one-to-one conversation with me to discuss where you are spiritually and maybe get some recommendations for your own practice, or if you'd simply like me to read your tarot, then the links to make a booking can be found down below as well. I'd like to say a very special thank you to the Level Infinity members, David Venturini, Caitlin Kopok, Aritz Murueta Ramos, Linda Hendricks, Stephen Hunter, Susanna Red Elfs, Thomas, and Bill Shea. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your incredible support means so much to me. And a huge thank you also to all the Level 3 Magister Venerabilis members whose names you can see scrolling up on the left over here. Please take care of yourselves and of each other, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye-bye.